Hey guys, Paul here from the Complete Personal Trainer podcast. So today I'm going to be talking about a concept that is really important for rehabilitation in particular, for performance training, for helping people identify their weak links and help them get better. And the concept is simply everything affects everything. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this podcast, and if you're a student of mine listening, this isn't directed at you entirely, because it's all of you who it's human nature to always want a solution to a problem. So what's the one exercise that's going to help my hip problem? What's the one exercise that's going to help my tight traps? What's the one exercise that's going to improve my performance in martial arts? What's the one exercise that does everything? And the fact of the matter is there is never ever going to be, never will, never was, never can be one exercise that's going to do the trick for everything. The reason being for that is everything's connected. One of the first things I talk about in my mentoring program is the joint by joint approach by Cook and Boyle. And the joint by joint approach is a simple model that allows you to understand basic biomechanical performance for most resistance training exercises and where problems occur. Now, it's not a perfect model by any stretch of the imagination, but it does have some use, and it is practically really easy for us to use to get an outcome with our clients and to create a better understanding of the body's interconnectivity. So when people ask me if there's one exercise for this, they haven't done a movement screen, they haven't looked at all these other factors, I can't really give an answer over a message or over the phone. It's quite irresponsible anyway, but we always want, there is a reason that is so hard to do. It's because everything is interconnected. As I go through explaining anatomy and biomechanics to my students, I start going into the concepts of expansion and compression and how they affect everything there, and looking at muscle action versus muscle function. So quite often, if you've got a sore joint, you want to train a muscle around that joint. Are you looking to train it with the muscle action to strengthen it in a isotonic fashion, or are you looking at, oh, this is a beautiful light, or are you looking at the muscle function? Like, what does that muscle do in the two most functional movements that we have, which is walking and breathing? So what are we actually looking at there? Sling mechanisms. So some of the ways the body's anatomical systems are put together to have easier movement, to be able to conserve energy, to become an energy efficient organism, such as the posterior lateral oblique sling or the anterior oblique sling. There's quite a number of these things that need to be considered. So shoulders can affect opposite hips and hips can affect opposite shoulders, and a number of different pathways. There's the fascial train system by Thomas Myers, which again isn't a perfect model by any stretch of the imagination, but it does help us find some things. It does help us find problems that may not have popped into our conscious awareness straight away. It's another way of looking at it, and you may find a solution that work. Other things that account for everything: micronutrition levels, macronutrition levels, sleep, rest, recovery, total volume load. So all these different things, like, it's really quite unbelievable how many different things that we can do that can affect what is actually going on in us. So what you have to ask yourself if you're a personal trainer are the following questions. One, is the problem as simple as it sounds? Is it just simply a problem where, yep, sore hip is a sore hip, they just need to get a massage on it? The answer 9 times out of 10 is probably not. Sometimes the massage helps. It will alleviate the pain by creating a sensory disturbance. It will cause a bit of a distraction, I guess, for the nervous system, and people will be able to then move and not have fear avoidance, and that's a whole other discussion. But you'll need to look at these things. You'll need to refer out to physiotherapists, osteopaths, to chiropractors, to other allied health professionals, and you'll need to deepen your knowledge of how the body works. So if you don't know your anatomy, you need to start learning it. You need to start knuckling down at, like, the lat, how it connects into the thoracolumbar fascia and the lumbar vertebrae and has an impact on the other hip. That's one small example of how all these muscles work, how the adductors and the abdominals work together as a force couple to help with pelvic mechanics. There's a number of these mechanical factors that we need to look at and we need to become aware of if we really want to do our job really, really well and help people through stuff. Now, for hypertrophy and all those other goals, it doesn't really matter so much knowing all this stuff. You can improve performance in certain exercises, absolutely. So if you figure out that you're a trainer who doesn't really want to know anything about that, start developing a relationship with someone who does, and you can refer clients back and forth, and you'll find a trainer, physiotherapist, etc., who isn't so interested in doing 6 sets of 15 to 1 hour, 2 to 1 hour leg presses with their clients with occlusion bands on. Not that either of those are any less worthy than the other. So a lot of the time we think corrective exercise is more worthy than hypertrophy training because it's harder or more complex. It's absolutely not. They're both equally as complex at the correct level. So guys, remember, everything is interconnected. Nutrition, psychology, very interconnected. It's not often the food, it's about eating the food. Nutrition and training, it's not about how much you can train, it's about how much you can recover, and the nutrients provide you that ability to recover. Sleep and training. If you don't sleep, your training will go down the toilet very, very quickly. If you have a negative attitude towards lifts, you'll probably be more likely to get injured by that lift due to a number of different factors. So guys, this podcast is more to not really give you any information at all in terms of something to do, anything actionable. I wanted people to start thinking a little bit better, asking a little bit better questions. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions, which is a quote I believe is really, really true. So what you can do with this is, when you do have something like a client's got a sore knee, well, what's an exercise that'll fix it? Stop, collaborate and listen. Stop and think about your question, and from there, how can you ask a better question that's going to lead you towards a better outcome? Just by doing that alone will improve your personal training business a great deal.